Hello, awesome. Thank you so much for joining me here today for our latest webinar. Like I said, I'm going to wait a few more minutes while we have a few more people join us. And in the meantime, we'd love to hear where you're joining from if you want to share. So far, we have Nashville, Philadelphia. Hi, John. Thanks for joining. So yeah, it's a bright sunny day here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And boy, oh boy, am I excited to chat with you today about discovery and law clerks. So, all right, I know your time is valuable, as is mine. So let's get this party started. Today, we are here to talk all about how to use LawClerk to help with all of your discovery related needs, okay? So a little bit about me first. I'm Kristin Tyler. I'm an attorney and I'm one of the co-founders of LawClerk. My background is as a trust and estates attorney. So I very intentionally by choice have chosen a legal career that doesn't involve a whole lot of discovery work, but I'm married to a trial lawyer. I'm partners with a whole bunch of litigators. I hear all about discovery a few times. I have done a few litigated matters. So I feel your pain when it comes to discovery, and I want to try and solve some of that today. Over the past few years before the pandemic, I've spent a lot of days and weeks and months traveling and meeting with lawyers. And if there's one commonality I can find, especially amongst litigators, it's a common distaste for discovery. I don't know any lawyer who actually enjoys discovery, but it's a necessary evil for litigation. And the good news is that despite the fact it can be very cumbersome and time intensive, it's something that can be very easily delegated, especially to a freelance lawyer. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, now in preparing this webinar, I'm going to go ahead and tee this up here. Do my screen share. Sorry, I'm a little not so smooth on the webinar today. We're going to get rolling though. Okay, so we are going to get going here with our webinar. Here's my contact information too. If you have other one-on-one questions you want to talk about, I'm ktyler@lawclerk.legal. You can hit me up there or on Twitter @KristinTyler. But as I was preparing today's webinar and trying to pull a number of really kind of meaty examples for you about how lawyers are using discovery, it became apparent to me that I could have very easily called this webinar tips and tricks from LawClerk top users or, power users best practices, because I honestly just went through the profiles of some of our top users who have posted well over 50 projects with us, well over 100 projects with us, and looked at how they use it for discovery to give you some examples. So know that the bulk of these examples are coming from top users, power users, and I'm really excited to share some of these insights with you today. So hopefully, my guess is that if you're here, you already know what LawClerk is, but in case you don't, let me give you a 30-second overview. At LawClerk, we help connect busy attorneys, primarily solo attorneys and small firms, with our nationwide network of freelance lawyers. Our freelance lawyers are there to help you with project work when you need help, just project by project. The project work is done on a flat fee basis at the price you set. There's no fee to sign up, and there's no monthly fee, unlike a lot of services that you're using as an attorney. And we've also recently launched a virtual associate subscription program as well. I'll touch on that a little bit at the end, but subscription can be a great way for you to work one-on-one with a dedicated virtual associate for your ongoing needs, especially if you're constantly facing challenges keeping up with discovery and getting discovery out. That might be a great way to bring in a virtual associate and help relieve that pain point. So that is LawClerk in a nutshell, and away we go. My guess is that if you're here today, you are probably pretty finely tuned into, okay, what's the best use of my time? I know there's only so many hours in a day, and discovery may not be the best use of my time. So how can I offload that so that I can focus on other more important tasks, like meeting with new clients, maybe business development, or strategy with clients, preparing for trial, etc. So when it comes to getting some of those things off of your to-do list and delegating them to others, outsourcing can be a really smart moving. Outsourcing often allows you to find a very flexible way to get work done without any sort of long-term commitment. It can be very affordable if you've never hired help before, definitely less intimidating than making a full-time associate attorney hire. You can often find deep expertise on a certain issue, and you can get the exact kind of help you need without increasing your overhead. And that's a major game changer for solos, attorneys, and small firms. So I'm really excited that you're here with us, and let's dig into this. So, when it comes to outsourcing, you can really outsource any substantive legal work. Okay, of course, research projects, drafting documents, whether those are motions, briefs, contracts, licenses, whatever, you can delegate those. You can delegate discovery, as we're going to dive into today. You can also delegate a lot of the marketing functions of your firm and a lot more. So I always say, don't be afraid to get creative when it comes to delegating and outsourcing, because you can find a lot of very creative ways to solve whatever problem you're facing. And the good news is that if you're not quite sure how to use LawClerk when you're trying to outsource one of these things, you can work hand in hand with your dedicated LawClerk advisor. When you sign up for a LawClerk account, you will be automatically matched with a dedicated LawClerk advisor. Your advisor is there to be kind of like your concierge, to walk through the whole process with you hand in hand, to help guide you with any questions you have about the site, or help you with pricing a project if you're not quite sure how to price it, or help you narrow down your selection of the best applicant to your project. So your advisor can help you with all of those things, and pretty soon you'll get the hang of it, and outsourcing and delegating on LawClerk will be second nature. So just know that we are here for you, and your advisor is going to be a key component of successfully delegating and outsourcing. How to get started with all of this? Of course, well, if you haven't already registered for a LawClerk account, I would encourage you to do that today. As I mentioned before, there's no fee to sign up and there's no monthly fee. So it's a great idea to have your account set up, ready to go. So when you do have some work you want to delegate and outsource, you're able to do that very easily. Okay. Then if you want some other resources, we have a ton of resources, on our homepage, lawclerk.legal. In the top bar, it's kind of a navy color. You'll see that it says attorney resources, and it's exactly what the name says. We've got a lot of information there, including a delegational worksheet and lots of good stuff to help get you started. But really the best way is for you to look at your to-do list, find something that either you don't have time to do yourself or you don't want to do. That's okay too. You can not want to do something at this point in your career. And that's a great project for you to consider delegating and getting a freelance lawyer to help you with. Okay, so the main question we're going to focus on today is, how are attorneys successfully delegating discovery-related work, okay? And the good news is there's a ton of examples. I had a really hard time narrowing these down, but I tried to find some greatest hits, like I said, again, from some of our power users. So I want to start it off by looking at a couple of discovery requests. So if you need help preparing, drafting requests to send out to the opposing party. First off, we have an example from one of our top users. This is a woman who's completed over 360 projects on LawClerk. So she's delegating discovery work all the time, like literally every week. She practices in a variety of areas of law, including family. And so this was a delegation that she had from a family law case. She priced it a flat fee of $300. And I really like this one. I'm going to give you a second to read it. So, family law case involving child custody. There's a couple of best practices we can look at here when it comes to delegating this kind of work. Number one, she was working with a team member. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on. But if you find a freelancer that you like, you can add them to your team, and then you can go back to them time and time again. So if you find a freelancer who's really great at getting these discovery requests drafted for you, you can add them to your team and go back to them time and time again, which is really cool. But here, another best practice, she provided a memo outlining the issues and the information they were seeking. And she also provided what she called a skeleton document for the form that she preferred for the interrogatories, request to produce, request for admission. That's a really great practice. If you have a template or a form that you like, absolutely share that with the freelancer. That's going to get them, 10 steps further down the road to getting the exact work product you want. It's going to save you both a lot of time and hassle. So if you have a template or a form that you need customized for a certain case and certain issues, definitely a good thing to provide that template to the freelancer to help both of you out. Okay, here's another project that was recently posted by a different power user. This is someone on the East Coast. So the one before was someone in the Midwest. She priced hers at $300. This is the guy on the East Coast who does employment discrimination litigation. He also needed some help drafting discovery demands, priced it at $400. I'll give you another second here to read through this one. So this was for a Title VII case. And again, the thing I liked about this one was he was very detailed in the type of applicant he wanted. He wanted to not only see a resume, but he wanted to see a writing sample of the employment law demands you've done before. and he gave the detail that he thought this was probably 4 to 5 hours of work. So factoring the flat fee, that's a really fair fee for 4 to 5 hours of work. And, you know, the freelancers are able to provide writing samples in their profile. So if you want to see a specific example of their writing on this exact type of thing, you can ask for that. And that's a really cool way to get this kind of work done. So there's another one. So we've looked at a couple of discovery requests or demands that have gone through the site. Here's help with discovery responses. Going back to that first power user again, she's always on here. And here she said, I need discovery responses prepared. I will provide the discovery request document. So obviously the request that her client received, along again with her skeleton response, her template, and then of course the material provided by the client. So, you know, she practices a lot in family law, and I imagine that she gets a lot, you know, she'll get interrogatories or requests for admissions, sends them to the client, and no doubt that client sends back, you know, a very long email or Word document full of all of the emotional responses to the request, right? So she really needs help from another lawyer to sort through that, find the relevant information that needs to be disclosed. Of course, look for any objections that should be farmed up as well, and kind of cut through the emotional stuff that isn't as relevant to have really concise responses drafted. And I think this is a great example of how she's doing this. We have a question in the chat. Okay, so the question is, do we archive any of these request examples? I don't know if you mean the actual work product or if you mean the instructions like what I'm showing you now. What I can say is the instructions that I'm showing you now are available on our attorney resources page, and we're actually converting this webinar today into an additional template just on discovery. The actual work product, we can't share that with you obviously because of attorney-client confidence, but there are a ton of examples by practice area on lawclerk.legal that can give you some more detail on how to do this for discovery related to your exact practice area. I hope that's helpful. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on. Here's another one of discovery. Actually, this is requests again. This is another power user out of Florida who's done over 50 projects with us, and they were looking for a request for production, request for admission, and interrogatories in a Florida circuit court case. The thing I liked here is that they gave details about the fact that, hey, pay close attention to the due date as it's a tight time frame on the project. So they highlighted the fact that it was going to be a quick turnaround to make sure that whoever applied was really able to meet the deadline. That's a good practice. And then they also estimated the page count of what would be written and included the jurisdiction, which is great. So another one to show you from a different practice area, different jurisdiction, kind of what people are pricing these at. All right, next we have one on interrogatories in a construction and fraud case. Okay, I'll let you skim through this one here for a minute. Okay, so this is actually a project from a first-time user. I wanted to include this to show you that you don't have to be a pro to have a lot of success with delegating discovery related work on LawClerk. So they had great detail here, and actually the full project description was like 4 paragraphs. So I kind of had to pare this down, but a lot of detail about what they were looking for, the fact that they would need to be able to look at New Jersey statutes and regulations regarding the construction industry, and that they really were expecting a very close to finished product ready for signature with proper caption and format. So great examples here. The one caveat I would say here, this is a first time user, is I think it's more than a little unrealistic to expect a finished product ready for signature. More realistically, you should expect to get these documents back to you 80 to 85% of the way done. You still have to expect to have time to read through them, make a few edits, maybe add a few additional details that only you know from all of the time you've spent on the case and with the client. So expecting them to be finished, just ready for signature is a little bit unrealistic. You do need to be mindful of your duty to supervise the freelancer's work. So again, this was a first-time project from a first-time user, and I wanted to show you the review that the attorney gave the freelancer when it was done. So here's the review. Far exceeded my expectations, which now are raised for the next time I use LawClerk. You know, it says that Susan was timely, thorough, tough with her questions, and even provided a document demand, which I had forgotten to ask for. So It's easy to see with this review that the freelancer far exceeded expectations, did an amazing job. Hi John. The resource again on our homepage, lawclerk.legal. If you look up in the top band of the website, the homepage, there's a navy bar and it says Attorney Resources. In Attorney Resources, we have a kind of a variety of practice area samples of different projects. So like if you practice in family law, you practice in immigration, whatever it may be, go click on your area of law. And we have a ton of sample projects for each area of law. And within those are discovery related requests. We are also going to add one just specifically on discovery after this program today. But whatever your practice area may be, I would encourage you to check out those attorney resources on our homepage and find your practice area specific guide to give you a little more input. Okay. Okay, so that was some interrogatories. Here's another one that I really liked. This was a document review. Okay, so again, this might be the same power user again, because she's always on here. But here, the attorney needed the freelancer to review extensive email correspondence between the parties in a family law case and review it, mark it for easy retrieval at trial, noting passages that would be helpful or detrimental against her client. She noted here that there was about 500 pages. And if it was more than that, that she would prorate and increase the price. So she started the pricing out at $350. Again, she's in the Midwest. So we see that attorneys are kind of paying a little bit less in the Midwest versus on the coast. So keep that in mind. But she did note that if it exceeded 500 pages, she was willing to pay more of a fee. So you start out pricing a project at a flat fee. You can always increase the fee, okay? You can't take it down, but you can increase the fee. So if you start work with a freelance lawyer and they come back at you and say, hey, you know, I started your request for admission in your interrogatories, but don't you want to do request for production of documents as well? You can add on to the scope. You can add on to the fee. So there is flexibility in that way. You could also always post a second project just as like a bonus payment. We have that happen quite a bit actually. But here's an example of document review in a family law case. Now here's a really interesting document review case as well for reviewing medical records. So the attorney posted it, said we need a medical summary of injuries, to insert into a settlement demand package. See the email with details. So again, this was going to a team member, so someone that had worked together before, so they emailed a lot more details. But the cool thing about this one was this attorney selected a freelance lawyer who actually had a career as a nurse before going to law school. The woman worked as a nurse for about 12 years, so has, you know, an enhanced knowledge of medical issues and medical terms compared to most attorneys. So this attorney hired this former nurse who's now a lawyer to come in, review medical records, help write a summary about the injuries to insert into the settlement demand package, and also to then lead to additional discovery related work. But this is a really cool way that you can oftentimes find very unique expertise, especially when it comes to things like medical records review or people that have other backgrounds before they went into the law, to be able to collaborate together. Okay, the next one, I really like this one. So this was, the attorney was tasking the freelance lawyer to develop a discovery outline, like a discovery strategy. From the East Coast, another power user who's completed over 70 projects with LawClerk. The flat fee price on this was $350. I love the details that they provided here. They say, I need a discovery plan involving an employment law retaliation case. And so they go through all the details of what they want you to do. Find cases that beat summary judgment, what factors the court used, EEOC opinions, and make a list of the case you use. And then they were going to use this discovery outline to then go propound discovery requests, do depositions, all sorts of things. I thought this was really an interesting one about how they collaborated with the freelance lawyer to come up with a discovery strategy, a discovery plan. Okay, here's another one. This one is kind of related to developing a timeline of a case. This was a criminal case. They needed someone to go in and look at the post-conviction record, review and prepare a timeline. So I'm sure you can imagine a lot of instances in your own cases where it would be helpful to have someone build a timeline based on either discovery responses you received or documents you've provided, or both. So keep that in mind. So here they said that the project would involve the review of approximately 600 fact entries from a 1,400-page document. They gave some kind of qualifications that would be helpful for applicants. And this actually ended up being 2 different projects. The first one was $500, and then I think that they went way over time, and the freelance lawyer wanted some additional funds to complete this, and so it was 1,400 pages. It ended up being $1,200 to review this 1,400-page document and provide a timeline and a summary. And again, I think I posted I didn't post the review here. The attorney's review at the end of it said that Thomas asked great questions to ensure he knew my expectations and that he was exceeding them with no time wasted. He communicated well and kept me informed. I'll hire him again. So this was a first-time user that did this project. That ended up being 2 projects for a total of $1,200 to get this extensive record reviewed and summarized and put into a timeline format. Now, another way we've seen a lot of our top users get help with discovery is when they're preparing for a deposition, to have a freelance lawyer with a fresh set of eyes again come in and look at certain documents in the case and come up with a deposition outline. That's a great time saver. It can often take, I think when I was a younger attorney, one of my mentors told me that for every day you plan to be in deposition, you should plan to spend at least 2 to 3 days preparing for it. So preparing for a deposition is a very time-consuming task. And this was something that this attorney delegated to a freelancer to outline all of the cause of action elements, all the defense elements, any related issues with the case, and then develop a master outline to use in depositions. They estimated that this would take about 4 hours of work. And again, with 4 hours of work, $400 flat fee, that's a very realistic flat fee. This particular project happened to be from an attorney out of New York, and the description, again, was really super lengthy, so I cut it down for this, but he said that this dispute involved a bitter business divorce. So a business divorce case out of New York is why they were getting this deposition outline. Another one that we see a lot of is to have people go in and write summaries of deposition transcripts. That can be helpful as you're preparing to go to trial, to make sure that you have, impeachment testimony ready. This particular project was just summarizing a 2-hour-long deposition, so the transcript wasn't very long. And they also provided a sample chart so that they would get the summary back in the format they wanted. So if you have a sample chart, if you like to have a chart that says like, document number or Bates number of the page, date of the document, keywords or summary, you could provide a chart to show them exactly how you want it to make sure it's done in your preferred format. That's another really great practice here. This was from a Florida attorney, this particular project. And as you can probably imagine, this would also lead to other discovery related tasks. Of course, you might end up needing motions to compel. You might need motions to quash. You might need help writing a meet and confer letter. We see a lot of those, and I included some price ranges to give you some rough ideas of what those are involved. Now keep in mind too, if ever you're doing this type of work on like a super tight turnaround, you need it back overnight or just within a few days, you're going to want to pay a bit of a premium to get that work done quickly. But we see a lot of motion work related to discovery related issues. Okay. So John, I got a question again. Does LawClerk provide any tools for performing these kinds of tasks like deposition and review? Well, within the LawClerk platform, we allow you to share documents back and forth with your freelancer directly. We allow you to do video conferencing or audio conversations. So once you sent the documents to your freelance lawyer, which we call your law clerk, you can quickly get on and have a short audio or video conference with them to talk through the details and make sure they're crystal clear on exactly what they should be doing, that they fully understand the scope of work. Those are kind of some of the tools. And we also provide you with, when you're posting the project, we provide you prompts to try to help you provide these types of details to make sure that you're finding the exact kind of help you need. But again, a lot of our greatest resources, I'm going to show you now where it's at on the site, can be found on the homepage. You'll see here. And again, here's that navy bar I was talking about in attorney resources. Okay, you can find a lot of this there. When you're on the attorney resources page, if you scroll down to sample projects, you'll see we have these sample projects for a whole bunch of different areas of law. So whatever your area is, go look at it there. If for some reason you don't find your area of law, or if you have a very specific project you're trying to post, you're not quite sure what details to provide, you're not quite sure what to price it at, that's where you want to keep in mind that you can talk to your advisor and they will absolutely help you figure out those details and get started. Okay. Now, a couple more thoughts I want to go through, and then I'm happy to answer any more questions that you guys might have. But one of the biggest questions we get is, Can you make money with outsourcing? I meet far too many attorneys who view outsourcing as a cost in their practice instead of as a revenue center, as it should be. And so to answer that question, the big answer to can lawyers make money with outsourcing is yes. The key rule to keep in mind here is Model Rule 1.5. It's the rule about reasonableness. And the whole idea here is that the rules, ethics opinions, case law, et cetera, all say that an attorney may bill the time of a freelance lawyer to their client at a reasonable market rate. So the key here is reasonable, and setting a reasonable rate based on your practice area, your jurisdiction, your market, and of course, the experience level of the freelance lawyer. You're probably going to charge less for a freelancer who has 3 years of experience than you would charge for a freelancer who has 23 years of experience. So those are all factors that go into considering what is a reasonable market rate. But if you are, well, let's look at an example here to walk this through. Let's say you find a freelance lawyer to help you write a motion to compel. Okay. You agree to pay them a flat fee of perhaps $1,000. That may seem high to you. Just roll with me for purposes of this example. Okay. So they write that motion to compel. They come back at the end of the work and they are still required to report to you how many hours they work. So let's say they report they worked 8.5 hours. You determine based on your practice area, your jurisdiction, the experience level of the freelancer that you can bill them to your client at $200 per hour. That's a reasonable hourly rate to bill them to the client. So that would mean you're billing the client $1,700, keeping in mind you paid a flat fee of $1,000. That's generating an additional profit of $700. Now let me get my calculator out here. That's on one project, okay? Let's say you did this and you brought in an additional $700 of revenue on one project every week. That would be an additional $2,800 of profit of revenue into your firm every month. When you do that over the course of a year, that's almost $34,000, okay? $33,600. That's a lot of additional revenue on just one project a week that you outsource. And you got to see here too that, it took this freelancer 8.5 hours to write this motion to compel. Probably would have taken you a pretty similar amount of time. So that's freeing up 8.5 hours of time that you can focus on business development, marketing, meeting with new clients, preparing for trial, whatever it may be. There's probably a different task in your practice that is a better use of those 8.5 hours than you writing that motion to compel yourself. So keep that in mind as you're thinking through outsourcing and delegating work to freelance lawyers, that it can be a way to not only get more work done, but to bring more money into your firm without you burning the midnight oil. And that's a real big factor for a lot of solo attorneys in particular. Okay, I've mentioned a couple of times throughout this, Teams. What is this Teams feature I keep talking about? As I mentioned before, it's a way that when you find top freelancers that you really like, you can add them to a team. You can create your own teams in our platform for a lot of different things. Let me show you a few ways we're seeing lawyers do this. Number one, we're seeing if you happen to have a number of different practice areas, you don't just do estate planning, you do a couple of different things. Maybe you do family law, bankruptcy, estate planning, real estate. You can build a team for each of those practice areas. So when you find a really amazing family law freelancer, you tag them to that family law team so that the next time you get a new divorce case in the door, you can go right to that person and assign them with drafting the complaint and maybe even forming up those initial discovery requests. Same thing with bankruptcy, et cetera. So you could build and create teams around different practice areas. That's one really great way to find the talent you need and have them ready to go when you need help. Another way is to build teams around skill sets. So maybe you have one specific practice area. You just do real estate litigation, okay? Maybe then you need a document review team. You need a discovery team, a research team, a motion team, a trial prep team. You get the drift. You could build teams of freelancers that have specific skill sets for those different types of work that you need done. You can also build teams over the lifespan of a case. So, maybe you need a team of 2 or 3 people for each different case. You really want them to get to know that case. And they'll do that by first you can assign them a project to do some research, and then they write a demand letter. When that doesn't resolve it, then they write a complaint, and you just progress through the case together by having that person on your team who's going to live that case with you. And I think that's a really exciting, cool way to use the talent of our freelance lawyers. Okay, now if you really want to take your outsourcing to the next level, consider our virtual associate subscription program. Okay, this is just what it sounds like. This is working with a freelance lawyer who you select the freelance lawyer for a set number of hours every month. And so the way the program works is you can select a freelancer with whichever talent level you need, a junior level, experienced, or senior attorney. and you can work with them in increments of 10 hours per month. So maybe you are saying, you know what, I am always fighting discovery deadlines in my family law practice. I could really benefit from 20 hours of help from an experienced attorney every month to help keep up with discovery and stay ahead of the game. You determine how many hours you want, again, in increments of 10 hours, and the experience level. We go out and find experienced freelance lawyers with the talent and the skill level that you want. You review their credentials. You can even interview the top couple if you need help narrowing it down. And then we connect you with what we call a virtual associate for those limited number of hours per month. You can always exceed the hours, and also keep in mind if you have your virtual associate working on certain tasks for you at the month and a unique issue comes up, you could hire a different freelance lawyer via a project on LawClerk to go in and do some research or draft a motion or whatever it may be. So you can still do project work even once you're in our virtual associate subscription program. If you want to know more about this, I would definitely encourage you to reach out to your dedicated Clerk Advisor, because they are going to be the one to help walk you through the process and help find the best virtual associate for you. But it's a really cool way if you want to take this to the next level, if you want to be able to work with someone on a deeper ongoing basis without having to post a bunch of projects, this is what virtual associate does. And it's really cool. We have been overwhelmed. We just launched this the first week of January, and we're getting multiple requests every single day. So if you're interested in that, reach out sooner rather than later. Okay, a couple last reminders. We've talked several times about your advisor. They are a tremendous resource. Don't forget, we don't have any monthly fees. So if you're new to LawClerk, go ahead and sign up that account so you're ready to go whenever you need to post a project, or if you want to explore building a team or working with a virtual associate. And also keep in mind that we do offer a satisfaction guarantee on every single project that goes through the site. So we have got your back all the way. We are cheering for you and your success. I hope that this gave you some creative ideas and information on ways that you can help use our freelance lawyers to get through discovery, and not only get through it, but to use it as a very strategic tool to give your client in your case a big advantage. Again, we have a ton more resources. We'd be happy to chat with you one-on-one, and I would welcome any questions that you might have at this time. Thank you, John, for the nice comment. I appreciate that. And again, I appreciate you guys taking your valuable time. If you like learning by video this way, keep in mind, we also have a ton of videos on our YouTube page. It's youtube.com/LawClerk. Maybe it's LawClerk Legal. You can find us. We're also on all of the different social media platforms, whatever platform you may like to use: Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Oh, and I would be remiss to not mention that we also have a really fun Instagram account. If you were noticing my little sharks in the background, we have set up an Instagram account for Sharky. We call it Sharky. It's @SharkOnTheRun, and that Instagram account is just all fun. It's like no business, it's all fun. Go check that out. We'd love to connect with you there. But thank you again for joining me today to learn a little bit more about how to use LawClerk to conquer all of your discovery related needs. Have a great day.